Welcome to Behind the Build. I am your host, Jonathan Jacobs. And before I introduce today's guest, I would like to remind you that you are listening from the streaming platform, and I would highly recommend that you take 1 second at the next red light and you give it a 5-star rating so that we can help increase the visibility to others. With that said, I am excited to introduce my two guests today. My two guests today have been traveling pretty much the world. They are not both architects, but they capture architecture. They capture the interiors. They are Doublespace. Today I have with me Younes Bounhar and Amanda Large. One thing that's really stuck out with me from the episode you're about to hear with Amanda and Younes from Doublespace is how they talked about intentionality, about choosing their projects and choosing their clients and their gear. And it reminds me a lot of the Kaplan's appliance experience. You know, I've known the team at Kaplan's for years. It's a family-owned business, and you feel that the moment you walk in. And it's not just how they greet you, but it how seriously they take the needs that you have and your client has. It's never really about pushing the product as much as educating you about the products and figuring out what you need and how your clients are going to cook and how they want to live and how you want the space to feel for your clients and what they're looking for out of the space. Matching the right fit with the appliances to where they're going to ultimately end up. And they carry all the brands you'd know, from Sub-Zero and Wolf and Fisher-Paykel and Gaggenau and Miele and Thermador. What makes them different is how they care. So whether you're designing a dream kitchen for a client or refreshing one that's 20 years old and it's a reno, if it's a ground up, really it doesn't matter what the circumstances, they're there with you all the way through. And here's what's really important, is that they remember your name and they remember your client's name. And that kind of service matters and it's rare. And I think that's why we keep going back to them. If you want to learn more about Kaplan's, please feel free to email me. It's Jonathan, Jonathan, @waldenhomes.ca. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Was my intro okay?
It was fabulous.
Did I get the names said correctly?
Perfect.
Did I get the names said correctly? Oof, that was terrible.
You have a great podcast voice.
Thanks.
You really do. It's got a nice tone to it. Like, it's kind of like, yeah.
Well, so, this is a podcast that is generally, I've had, many people on here, and I will continue to have many people on here that are architects, that are interior designers. And every now and again, I want to break it up and I want to have people on that help fulfill what architecture is or what design is. And that comes from the talent of what you bring to your craft. So I've had some people on that are consultants. I've had other people on different type of consultant. And so I'm excited to be able to have the two of you on because given what you do, you see it all.
We do. We get to see the pleasant part of architecture, not the sweat and tear and blood. I mean, we have our own sweat, tears, and blood, but from the sounds of it, it's not quite as painful.
Fair.
Yeah, we get to see all the cool stuff.
So tell me, and whenever I interview more than one person, I don't like to ask the question necessarily directed at one of you. I allow the two of you to decide who wants to answer, so you can make the eye contact and decide. What led you into your profession? What led you to say, like, this is what we want to do? We're going to go capture photography of architecture, interiors, and landscapes, and what led you down that road?
I think my path was more straightforward than Younes's, perhaps, because I did study architecture. So okay. I went to school for architecture. I interned for a few years after I got my degree.
Where did you go to school?
I went to University of Waterloo.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just wasn't, I enjoyed working at a firm, but I didn't want to practice anymore. But I still, I love design. I love architecture. So I still sort of wanted to be in that world. And at the same time, I had been becoming more and more interested in photography. So right. For me, it seemed like a natural progression. But I didn't know Younes at that time. So, and then, Younes, you tell your origin story.
Yeah, I guess in a way, it's my progression is not as straightforward, but it also is because really the turning point was meeting Amanda, really. So I started photography fairly late in life. I'm a molecular biologist by training. I've had
a molecular biologist.
Yeah, basically killed cells.
Yeah.
That's really what I did for the most part.
Okay.
And I had several careers. I worked in IP law, not IP law is not the right word, but IP policy and at Industry Canada, and then I fell into photography kind of somewhere in between, mostly doing landscape and travel photography, which I absolutely loved. It was great. I traveled the world doing it. But, living in Ottawa, the potential for landscape was kind of limited. So I started dabbling in buildings and more buildings, and I kind of thought, that's kind of neat. That's kind of cool. And I enjoyed it more and more. And then when we met, we just, and we decided to do something that was more than just a hobby. It was just kind of the natural progression. We were introduced by a mutual friend.
Okay.
And it was kind of, at least for me, I mean, the jury is still out on her side, but it was love at first sight, actually pre-sight, pretty much. We were introduced. We had a couple of chats by email. And then
I was living in Toronto at the time, and Younes was in Ottawa. So,
and then we decided that for our first date, we'd just fly to California and spend a week.
No way.
Yes way. Meeting by the tree, as the joke goes. We went to Death Valley for a week shooting.
Having never met each other.
Pretty much. Well, not pretty much.
But you had exchanged messages, but this is the first time face to face.
100%. Like I literally met her by a tree at the airport for the first time.
I'm going to be wearing this.
More or less. Well, I knew. I mean, we kind of knew what we looked at each other.
Okay.
Yeah. But and we had to spend a week, several hours on a plane together.
Right.
Before, In fact, I have a very interesting, funny story. So, California, we stayed.
Heard this already, Amanda?
Pardon?
You've heard the story,
of course.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
I think it's cool because, I'm not particularly, Anyway, there's relevant. It's relevant how particularly whatever I am. But anyway, we were staying sort of a little bit inland, and we checked in at our hotel, and I'm like, let's go check out the coast. So hey, we go for a little drive. And it's maybe 40-minute drive, more or less. But you kind of have to go over the hills to the other side, to the water. But that means you get to drive these switchbacks up and down and left and right and up. And this whole time, this girl who I've met only hours before is turned to the other side like this.
Sick.
Which I did not know.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's... I was like, well, that's going to be a great trip. Yeah, it turns out she was just sick, but I didn't know. And I was like, well, let's see how this goes.
She's not so into me.
She did not like me. It didn't turn out so bad in the end. We were pretty much, we were married, 11 months later?
Yep.
And that's been 14 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. Life just throws things at you sometimes.
For what it's worth, no one can see what just happened, but Younes just took his hand and just did one of those explosions with his head. Hands. Can you believe it? Yeah.
Mind blowing.
It is. Yeah. It's mind blowing. That life can change in those types of instances, right?
Yeah.
I actually have a similar, this podcast is not about me, it's about you, but my wife and I went on our honeymoon, and I knew she was similar. Okay. She does not like turns. She can get very susceptible to nauseum. I apologize, Wendy, I'm telling the story. I'll write this later on. Whatever. Anyways, we're in Thailand. We're going from Chiang Mai to Pai, and if anyone listening, if you have done this trip, send me a message. Send me a message through Instagram. I'll happily respond to it, and we're going to reminisce on this. I think it's 782 turns.
Oh my God.
Through the mountains, and they're all blind.
Sounds like hell.
It is unlike anything you have ever experienced, because also the drivers drive this all the time. It is so wild. And I say this, I feel like I actually might have told the story in some other fashion, but there were 4 or 5 sports cars ripping around us on a blind turn. And I couldn't understand what it was. I feel like I have told the story. This is now potentially a repeat. Sorry. And turns out it was Gerard Butler and everything else. And they were he was with friends, and they were flying around. And I just, I was thinking when I saw these guys cut into oncoming traffic to go around, if a bus is coming around that other side, you're dust. Meanwhile, as I'm enamored with the beautiful sports cars, I'm looking at my wife, and she's
Green.
yeah, she's like a new shade. I'm like, oh, you don't look well. I can appreciate. And so, how was this? This was when you went to California. This was for a shoot.
No.
Or no, this was just to get together and travel.
Yeah, well, I mean, we took our cameras. Obviously,
Okay,
we went to photograph Death Valley.
Okay.
Yeah, but what's better than this blonde lady being taken around by some Arab down to the desert
Oh my god.
by herself?
Oh, I love your sense of humor.
In a nutshell.
It's so great.
Well, if you were going to murder me, you could do that in Canada. You need
but
to
maybe-
take me all the way there to do it.
Maybe I like to do.
I mean, it's part of the story.
Maybe I like to do things with panache, But we're here,
So, and have any of those photos that you took there, did any of them hang in the house?
Not
No.
in our house, no.
Not in our house, in some other houses, yes.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. Actually, that's interesting. Because we have some really amazing photographs. Have you ever been to Death Valley?
No.
Dude, it's like this crazy world, like at your doorstep. It's amazing.
Yeah. There's so much that I haven't seen.
Yeah, but it's just like it's so close.
Yeah.
It's just like it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It was absolutely incredible.
You should print off some. You got to print off some of those pictures.
Sure, also,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it was incredible. I mean, I had a great time.
No, it was great. It was amazing.
And at this point, you were both practicing photography.
No,
No, not at all.
Oh.
No,
Okay.
I mean,
Sorry. So you both. I guess I got
we're
it.
both really interested in photography.
Interested. So you
But
had
it's-
cameras. You had some equipment, but you were not professionally practicing.
No.
Got it.
Never shot anything professional or that looked like even. So when I said I did or like building photography, it was what you would call maybe urban.
This was for yourself at
Yeah,
the time.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't
like
know that. Okay.
I taught a couple of workshops. I published in magazines, but that's about it. Like
Got it.
I wasn't. I was making a living as an IP professional at the time. Like it was nothing to
Got
do. Photography as a career is merely a remote dream. That's about it. I think for both of us, I would say maybe more remote for me, I guess. But
Yeah, maybe more remote for you. But I was not even at the stage of like figuring out how I would begin a photography career. I was just at the beginning, I suppose, when I met Younes.
yeah, no,
But
I had
I
it.
think
Yeah.
just like our courtship and our marriage, like things escalated really quickly after we got together. So
Yeah, I think one trait that I think we both share is that we're pretty. I make jokes about Amanda waffling over her dress choices, but we're pretty decisive in life.
Right. Which is a nice feature to have.
Well, at some point you just gotta
make a decision.
Let's
move on.
Just do it. I live with one rule: no regrets. I would rather try and fail than wonder my whole life. So yeah, at some point we're like, let's do this. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
That's it.
One of the things that Amanda and Younes said that really stuck with me is they built Doublespace by knowing what not to do. No shortcuts, no third parties. That's exactly what I think of when I think of the doors. They're one of our go-to window and door suppliers, and the company was founded in 2006. They do every single part of the process in-house. Measurements, shop drawings, logistics, installation, and service. It's all theirs. And that means total control, fewer mistakes, and a better final product. They're not just installing windows, they're building entire curtain wall systems up to 20 feet tall with custom curves and glass that spans up to 10 to 12 feet wide. In some circumstances, up to 21 feet wide. That level of engineering and execution doesn't happen by accident. It comes from experience and from not outsourcing the most important parts. In a world full of vendors and choices, they are builders, and I respect that. If you want to learn more about the doors owned by Martin and Marta, feel free to email me at Jonathan, that's Jonathan, @waldenhomes.ca. Okay, so 11 months into this post-trip, you get married,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still working within the same field.
Mm-hmm.
And so what state, like, are you feeling this underlying itch? What
Yeah, it was more than an itch. I think the transition kind of happened earlier. I remember the conversation. It was like April 2011, I want to say, like not long after you moved in with me.
Yeah.
And we were like, I think we had this conversation. I really feel like I need to do this. That it has to be more than just a hobby.
Right.
Like, and she's like, well, me too. And then we're like, well, should we do something together? And then we started, well, what could be viable that we both like that, because I mean, she's not into landscape. I wasn't necessarily into street photography per se. And we were like, what can mix both of our kind of passions and be, again, a commercially viable endeavor? Because I mean, let's face it, you got to eat ultimately. And really, we schemed a plan then, right there and then. We're like, let's build a portfolio in the next 6 months, and then
for ourselves to be able to establish what this thing's going to look like. Yeah.
Well, first to prove ourselves that we can do it. Second, that we can show to prospective clients. And we just went and shot anything that moved. Actually, anything that didn't move, but pretty much. And then within 6 months, we had that, and then we built a little story to get us access to a bunch of restaurants and hotels, and I mean, it's most random stuff. I mean, I could show you some of that stuff, bro. It ain't good. It ain't good.
It was guerrilla photography.
Yeah, more or less. And then
So what are you doing? Taking photos here?
No, we had permission.
Okay.
But then really, like, I think game changer was I suppose Ottawa Magazine. Do you want to?
Yeah. So like Younes said, we had a plan for this. We planned things out pretty well. We were going to build our portfolio, make connections and take it from there and then launch our business at some point. But we put together like a pitch about local hotels and restaurants in Ottawa. So we did have proper access to photograph these places. We just would never want those images to see the light of day again, is what Younes was saying. And we pitched it to Ottawa Magazine, which is sadly defunct now. It no longer exists. But we somehow, the editor-in-chief and the art director, I don't know if they took a shine to us or took pity on us, but they kind of took us under our wing a little bit. So
nice.
Thank you, Sarah Brown and Jane, for doing that. They were really great. Like, they introduced us to local architects. They
gave us
gave
little
us
jobs.
assignments. So that really helped us sort of get a foothold in Ottawa. And I was just saying, someone recently called me to ask about like starting up. And I think we're lucky to start our business in Ottawa at the time.
Why do you say that?
Ottawa is a lot smaller than Toronto.
Yep.
And it's like, whoever you want to talk to, anybody in town, you're only ever like 2 degrees of separation from them at most, because everybody knows everybody. So It was really easy you wanted to talk to someone, we would know somebody who knew them and we'd be able to talk to them. So it was just sort of a smaller circle. So it was a good way to sort of get our feet wet, I think. And
I think that, and I think also what happened is that we quickly got noticed. I mean, we'll probably get into this in more detail. We got noticed by a couple of Toronto firms that had jobs in Ottawa.
Right.
So instead of sending someone from Toronto, we're a visible entity, and they're like, hey, so we got to do a fairly massive step up within months of starting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, our progression, to be honest, has been kind of, I mean, our whole career, I will say, sometimes it defies logic. I mean, but like to us, I mean, this is not to, like I'd say we look at each other once a week and go, we're doing this for real? People pay us? Like, it's weird. Like, we literally just, we're just people with cameras. Really.
Well, and also on the topic of the pay, I'm going to say this. We got to make sure always that we pay people, right?
Yeah.
Always.
Pay your people.
Pay your people. Always got to pay. We look in Walden, we do the same thing. Okay. And I say it because like, it's important be able to get people to perform. We pay them.
Well, nobody prints money.
they come back and there's that mutual respect. And I know it can be hard. It can be hard as a trade to put yourself out there and not get paid. So I say it to anyone that's out there listening, pay the people. Yeah. And it's whether it's a photographer, if it's a trade, whoever it is, pay. Always make sure you pay.
And on the flip side, I think you alluded to it. Like, if you're starting, don't accept not being paid just because you're new. Yeah. Stand up for yourself. A client who doesn't pay you is not a client.
Yeah.
So just you have to make sure that you're getting your due. And
you're not going to be in business if you don't get paid.
100%.
So go after that paycheck.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Absolutely.
Sorry. I took a little detour there to stop for gas. Go ahead. Back on the highway.
Which highway?
The highway we were talking. Yeah. Or maybe it was a quick charge, depending on.
I honestly cannot quite remember where we were.
So exactly. you were talking about how you got the contract with practice here, but it was for a project in Ottawa, and how that started to escalate things.
Yeah, things just kind of escalated fairly quickly. We got in with a couple of really good, like, bigger local firms in Ottawa that gave us some jobs. I mean, I think maybe a small detour is that. So we're talking here early 2012, so late 2011, early 2012. So, throughout 2012, we're getting some small jobs here and there from Ottawa Magazine. We got connected with a couple of architects. So by June, July, we had a couple of really good houses to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And then so this opportunity manifested itself that I ended up quitting my job in September 2012. And I remember so naively, we just booked 2 weeks in Toronto and called everyone we knew and didn't know and lined up a bunch of interviews with firms that were way beyond, way above our league, but we still showed up.
Some of them even talked to us.
Some talked to us. Actually, we got interviews with most of them. Some of them actually were eye-opening on many levels. Some of them took a chance on us. Some of them kind of laughed at us, but then ended up being clients years down the line. So I think one of those things, like, I think you have to put a plan together, which I think we did fairly well.
Had you done that in the beginning? Like, when you were starting out, I know it was more like, let's go see if we can do this. But had you put together like a short-term business plan or long-term business plan?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't say a long-term per se. I think the idea was, definitely a short-term plan for sure. Yeah. It was like, here is who we're going to talk to. Here's what we want to be. Here's, here are the steps that are necessary to be able to even get access to these people. Who do we need to talk to? What kind of work do we need to show? Put together promo material, right. All of that stuff, and I think what helped us a lot is that we intentionally narrowed our focus to architects. They're easy to identify. You pick up the phone.
Your target market is very easily identifiable when you're working.
I'm aware of that target market. Yeah.
Yeah, you may know a few. Yeah. And so that was it. And then we just put in the calls and put ourselves out there. Yeah.
And at the time, I mean, equipment, like, you start out, you have like maybe like what, 1 or 2 cameras, right? Yeah. Just when you're getting into this, you might have had. Did you have more? Did you have more than 1 or 2 cameras when you first started?
I think we had the equipment. I mean, we had equipment. I don't think equipment is. I'll be honest with you, equipment is the least important thing in the whole thing.
I know that, but I also know that the capital required to get good equipment, you need to either have it as a really strong hobby,
which you could say we did.
Okay, okay, fair. That's why.
We say this to a lot of people, like, who are starting out, like, keep your day job.
Yeah.
Like, don't just take a shitty job that's not taking you in that's actually part of the business plan, like we're talking about. Like, it was clear from the get-go, we weren't just going to take any job. Like, we're not going to do event photography and wedding photography or whatever other photography. There are types of designers or builders that we are not interested in working with because they're just not in the trajectory that we want. I understand I'm not here yet, but going downhill is not going to help you get there. So so the reason I say keep your day job is that, have your income consolidated and steady, and then take on 3 or 4 really good jobs a year. Do it for 3, 4, 5 years. That's much better than going in the deep end right there and taking any jobs just to make ends meet and actually not really progressing toward, like, your progression might actually be slower, even though you might be doing more jobs.
Right.
So that was kind of a lot of what we did. Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes you also have to have balls. We made some calls like we're like, okay, what's the worst they can say?
Yeah. I mean, they're only going to say what they're going to say to you if you don't call.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we got to shoot for Zahadid 18 months into our business, which still sounds stupid.
Right. Like, yeah. I remember when I was starting this podcast and the outreach that I did to people, I'm like, I don't have a podcast yet, but I'm starting it. And would you be interested? And it's the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
You got to know who you want to go after, right? To establish what it's going to look like and hopefully achieve what that plan is.
Yeah.
So over the course of, these, you defined in 2011. So 2012, you start to really get into it.
So we're in September 2012, we were full-time.
Yeah.
That was earlier than expected. Like Younes said, we had this opportunity for him to leave the government. So we just said, well, okay, now's as good as time as any. Let's go for it.
We spent a lot of time on this episode talking about craft, about being involved in the process from start to finish. And so it comes to mind when I think about Aquanta pools. These pools are engineered to hold up anywhere. We're talking 300% expansion capabilities. No cracks, no holes, no breaks. And the best part, you don't need to wait for perfect weather to have your installation. Aquanta's system can be installed in just about any season. I've seen firsthand demonstrations how the owner, Yuri, is involved from day one. They handle the drawings, the permits, the site oversight. It's fully managed experience, which is rare in this space. They're not just building a pool, they're building a process that respects your time, your investment, and your site, but also the beauty of what you're going to experience once it's complete. It's thoughtful, deliberate, and done right the first time. If you want to learn more about Aquanta pools, please feel free to email me. It's Jonathan, JONATHAN @waldenhomes.ca. And so, and what did it look like at that time when because if you're gonna go and do it, I'm assuming you're gonna need to have a certain amount of projects that you're looking to book. You're shaking your head no.
No.
Okay.
I mean, that's why I think we're still incredulous with this. Like, I'll be honest, like we had 2 real gigs under our belt. Like, I'm not
at the time that you left.
Yeah, like
September,
2 proper houses.
Okay.
And then a few small auto magazine jobs, like very small.
Okay.
But although a really cool one shooting Yusuf Karsh's suite at the Fairmont Hotel, that was very cool. Anyway, so just a small random note. But you know what? We went full time.
Yeah.
We went and did all these interviews, and we came back to Ottawa, and the phone did not stop ringing.
Crazy.
We had a goal for our first year. We reached it within 3 months.
So and it was
a financial goal.
I was gonna clarify that. Is it a financial goal or a number of projects? Okay.
We had a financial goal for our first year, and we reached 50% of it within 3 months of operation.
Amazing.
It makes no sense.
It was a fairly conservative goal. Let's just say, but still.
Still though.
But you put a goal down on whether
course.
you call it paper or digital print. Like you had a goal and you hit it. You hit 50% in 3 months. So
I would have been happy to hit that 50% after the first year. I'd be like, there's hope. It sucks, but there's it's good numbers.
And so by the end of year 1,
mm-hmm.
you had exceeded that goal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And have you continued to write down what the ambitions and goals are, or now is it more loose and you've got what you're kind of looking for, or like what does that look like now as from a general planning perspective?
Planning.
I feel like planning's gone a little bit by the wayside, but it's because we're busy. So I suppose it's good. I mean, we're always, so the advice you give and the advice you take are not always the same, right? You're always like, well, you should be marketing while you're busy just so that you stay busy, but we should be a little more goal oriented.
But I also feel like your marketing though is not just done by you. Your marketing is done also by all the practices that you're shooting for, because they're putting your product out there. You're supposed to be getting the credit when it's being shared.
I'm sure it helps. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that we have. No, I can essentially say we do not have a plan.
Okay.
I will say that we have a general intentionality. I don't know if that's the right word, like it was even a word about kind of what we want to do with our lives. So one thing we do a lot. So there's definitely people we still hope to target and get the kind of work we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about paid work, like commissioned work. So we still kind of, talk to these people, kind of put feelers out.
Yeah.
There's maybe not in a formal way, but there's a lot of Instagram work, for example, like behind the scenes and that. But also I think we spend a lot of time, figuring out because ultimately this is what we love doing. This is what we do on vacation. This is what we do on the weekends. This is what we do when we have nothing to do,
Yeah.
like we shoot architecture. Like
Right.
we literally rent houses so we could shoot them. Literally, we're that stupid, So, so I think every year now we do make sure we have a few things that it's a lifestyle thing, right?
I want to ask that question about you rent a house. Are you renting houses locally, or you're like going to like an Airbnb and
Oh, no, just if we're going to travel, then we're
Okay.
always going to stay somewhere.
Okay.
Or not always, but for the most part, we're going to stay somewhere that we also want to shoot because
Right.
we,
why not?
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because we want to stay somewhere that is
Means something.
beautiful
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nice, and therefore we're going to want to shoot it because
Right.
it's beautiful and nice.
Yeah. Sometimes you rent a place that's near the destination, but sometimes for us, the place is the
Is the
destination.
destination, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, we've done that several times, Yeah, because, I mean, again, you go to a nice sunny country and you stay in this crazy place that inspires you. And
Yeah.
I mean, was it last year we did Muralla Roja, or was it the year before? The year before. I mean, it was just magical.
Where?
The Muralla Roja. It's a Ricardo Bofill residential complex in Spain, sort of just south of Valencia, and it's magical.
Okay.
It looks like if you saw Squid Games on Netflix, it looks like all those colored stairs in Squid Games. I think it was.
I think it was inspired.
I'm not sure
by
if this is just an urban legend, but allegedly it was inspired by
Got it.
this complex in the south of Spain.
So then I would have to ask this question that is may or may not again deviate from where we're talking about the path and trajectory and all the rest of it. But your passport, okay. How many countries have you now photographed in?
Not that many.
Not that many.
Okay.
I mean, you have
States, provinces.
we have young kids, so we
Yes.
decided. So when we first started, we were really going to pursue the international bit. But
Yeah.
when we had kids, I think we kind of intentionally stopped that.
Okay.
We have the occasional.
Yeah, it's not something we actively
pursue.
seek
Yeah,
out
yeah.
all the time, just because it's really impractical. But
It's very disruptive. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I feel like now that the kids are a little older, I'm more,
sure when they're older, still we will get back
Yeah.
to that. But
Yeah.
But
Really?
countries, I say what? Chile, US, Singapore, Morocco, Portugal, Spain,
China, or Hong Kong, rather.
Well, China, yeah. England,
We went to India for a commission, but it wasn't architecture.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Italy, that's about it. 10?
Iceland.
No.
Okay.
I've never been.
Not for work.
Okay.
I've traveled there, but not
Okay.
for work.
And all across Canada.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I haven't been to Newfoundland or Saskatchewan yet.
Saskatchewan. Okay. There's actually some beautiful stuff in Saskatchewan.
Yes.
And in Newfoundland.
Yes, or the territories. There's an amazing
Oh.
mosque going in Yellowknife.
Oh,
I saw it yesterday on Canadian Architect. I definitely want to take a look at it. It looks incredible.
So it's funny because I'm going to say this. So there's an episode that has now come out, but based on the date of recording this, you haven't heard it yet, which is an interesting thing. It's like a multiverse. But there's the podcast with Snow Architecture
Oh,
based out of Yellowknife,
funny.
and they're awesome. They're such good people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So look it
So
up.
okay, so what about some like really interesting places that you feel like you've gone and you've seen? Because I know that the as you're doing your count on your hand, you're saying 10, 12, 13, 14 countries, whatever it's going to have been as you were counting there. Elevations, remote areas. What types of locations have been really, really inspiring and have stuck with you over the course of what has now been a 12, 13-year career? I know, random question.
I grew up near the ocean. I just really love the ocean. It was always like my dream in life is to live right by the ocean.
Where did you grow up?
Wales.
Okay.
So on the coast. So I think anywhere that has been like on the coast is always a good, like really inspiring for me. Like the Cape Breton house we shot for Omar.
That was pretty sick.
Muralla Roja again was like right on the ocean. I can't remember where else, but yeah, pretty much I love the ocean.
Ocean.
Hmm.
Lisbon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I will speak for Amanda on this one as well. Like we're partial to the Iberian Peninsula.
Yeah, definitely.
What about it? Just all of it?
Yeah, the light,
Weather, the food.
the weather, the food, the people.
Yeah.
The urban
Um,
life, yeah. Just
yeah.
the lifestyle.
They're chill. I feel like they understood what it takes, what life is about. Like I feel like North Americans are always running.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're going anywhere faster, but there's kind of this culture of, don't get me wrong, I think I have a very strong work ethic and I'm very much a workaholic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's kind of like, there's this culture of like, you're only as good as your work here. And life is more than just that.
I couldn't agree more with you.
And so I think that kind of really sticks with us, like going there, like there's a pace of life that's just so much more soothing, like you can wake up and have a coffee at the park.
Have you been to Costa Rica?
No.
So I have this like vivid memory of when I was there in 2007, 2008, I think it was. Anyhow, my buddy and I, we backpacked across the country over the course of about 2.5 weeks. We went to like a small music festival on the East Coast, and then we moved our way across. And I remember we were in Malpais, which is like pretty much like a surfer's town, like 500 people. And when we arrived, it was during like siesta o'clock. And we were like hungry. We wanted to like find something. And like all these small businesses in this really small town were all closed because everybody's taking their nap. And I'm like, what do you mean? I want to give you money. But that was what the culture was in this region. Now, it wasn't like that across the whole country, but to your point, it was like a refreshing moment when I realized, I'm like, oh, these people work at a different pace than the rest of the world.
They may be onto something.
Maybe 4-day work weeks aren't the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
What I would say, what about like some of the architecture that you have really connected with now that you've done so much of this? I know that you shoot a lot of modern, a lot of contemporary. Is that what you feel like resonates closely with you and you're able to capture through the lens in a different way than traditional, or do you not really, are you impartial to that?
I feel like I talk all the time, so ultimately, I think we kind of boil it down to two things: good people, and fun work, and that's very broad. We like to make good photos of good work with good people. Like some places definitely speak to you more. Whether I feel like we do. I think we do gravitate towards more modern.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
gravitate to more modern, minimal spaces.
Yeah,
maybe minimal isn't the right word, but
streamlined, maybe.
Clear, more streamlined.
Yeah. I don't know that we have a specific style. We just like to have fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny because I know it's not quite the question you asked, but I really feel like it kind of touches it. Like one question we get asked a lot is like, what's your dream job, or what's your favorite gig you've ever done? I'm like, I can't tell you. Like
that's
it's not even about choosing. It's just like there is no one factor that makes it. It's definitely not prestige. There are really, really prestigious buildings that are extremely boring to shoot. There are extremely prestigious architects who are maybe more difficult to work with than others.
Yeah.
There are small jobs that I say this all the time. Like, the year I shot Brian McKay-Lyon's Powder Mountain project and the Simek Hariri's temple in Chile, like arguably two of the most incredible locations I've ever been to. One of my favorite projects that year remains a much, much smaller reno that in Mississauga. Hi, Joey, if you're listening. Is the architect's own house, and it was brilliant. It was clever design. Joey and his family were amazing. Just these two boys, and
it's just it's a different vibe, right?
Yeah.
It's a different vibe. It's not that the other places weren't amazing in themselves. It's just a matter of how it resonated with you.
Yeah, it takes nothing away from anybody. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't, because sometimes, people are like, oh, I'm not even sure you'd be interested in this project, or maybe, I'm too small.
It's too small for you.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
work is work.
Work is work, for sure.
And you won't,
but also like fun is fun, and it has nothing to do with how much money I'm making or how much publication I'm going to get out of it. Or, sometimes You get like, we've had like these incredible clients sending us across around the world shooting these small pavilions. I went to Singapore in January to shoot this Porsche pavilion, like this made of bent metal, more or less.
Porsche pavilion?
Yeah, it was like the launch of the electrical Macan.
Yeah, Macan.
Yeah. And it was unreal. Like, and there's tiny little projects. Like, they're like, the size of this room, more or less,
Don't knock this room.
There's nothing.
It's a perfect size.
I love it here.
It's not size, it's how you use it.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I had to.
It's okay. No, look.
I do think, though, I definitely have a soft spot for libraries.
Yeah.
Not only because I'm a big nerd who loves books, but just, photographing libraries is always fun.
Yeah.
Even like from the smaller ones, it doesn't have to be like, the big, amazing, Starchitect ones are great too, but even,
We are starting a newsletter. It's called Inside the Challenge. We want you to be a part of it, either as a consumer of the information or to record the information. The concept is simple. We're going to book a 10 to 20 minute time on Zoom, and you're going to record with me and share your challenge. If you don't want to record, well, how about you consume it? You can email me to either record with me or email me to register and sign up to receive the newsletter. People are going to be talking about the challenges of operations, of sales, of constructability, how personal elements are affecting their professional life. I've already recorded a whole bunch of them from people in the industry, the owners of architecture practices and design practices and consulting practices. We really look forward to getting this out to you. Feel free to connect Jonathan, Jonathan, at waldenhomes.ca. We look forward to getting this to you. But so what happens? That's actually an interesting question, because what happens on a go-forward basis with libraries? Are they going to be designed in the same way that they currently are, they had been prior? Because ultimately, so much information is now available online. What do? You throw computers in the library now?
Yeah. Well, there are, but libraries are not just, a place to get books anymore. They're also like community building and a lot of activities that are, not necessarily book related. They're still sort of hubs.
They're being reinvented.
I have to say my dad was taught grad school for library and information studies. So
it's a soft spot.
I'm maybe more aware that that libraries are not just about books anymore. Yeah. It's a community center.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, they're definitely placemaking,
and maybe that's what I like about them. Is that they provide this opportunity for people to come together and to community building.
Yeah, I think two things I'll add to that. Coming back to Portugal, if you ever go to Portugal, anybody who ever goes to Portugal, one of the hidden gems of Portugal is small municipal libraries. Walk into any small town or village in Portugal, and you'll find the sweetest, tiniest, most incredible libraries. We've never been disappointed. Every single time. And I'm talking about nowhere.
Right.
There's 5 people.
Crazy.
And
I would never think to do that in another country, only because I'm going to go in there, I'm not going to be able to understand or read what's in here.
They're just amazing buildings. And the beauty about Portugal is it's always, the architecture is always humble. It's not onerous. It's just simple materials,
right?
But delicious. So anyway, so the second point I wanted to say is that I think, again, to follow up on Amanda's point, is that we really, really love public space in general. So anything that contributes to the fabric of society, that kind of, builds community, it really holds a soft spot for us. That's actually one of the reasons we like Portugal. They have so many little squares that are actively used by the population, where you really see the city coming alive. Mm-hmm. I think, one of the examples we always talk about is the Halifax Library, which really clearly filled a huge void in the city, where I'll never forget this. We always ask people in these buildings, how do you like it? Does it work for you? I'm just curious. I'm just a naturally nosy and curious person. So I'll just ask, did my client mess up, or is it actually working? Don't listen to that, clients. I'm just joking.
We also weren't hired to photograph.
Yeah, we weren't even hired. So again,
we just visited there.
We were photographing it on my birthday because that's what we do. Like
we were in Halifax for work.
Yeah,
We went
yeah.
to the library because it looked cool, and it
I-
was really cool.
I will add to that. I'll make another shout out to Beth Lowenfeld, who's an interior designer that we work with, and she was out delivering a client's home to them on her birthday, not telling them that it was her birthday because, like, that's to your point.
Yeah, that's what you do.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we need more of that balance of the 4-day work week and the siestas.
Yeah.
Anyhow, go ahead.
So I asked this woman, and she's like, well, I hadn't set foot in a library in like 15 years, and now I'm here several times a week, ever since it's opened.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's magical.
Yeah.
And you honestly, you could feel it in the building. Like our kid, who was not necessarily our oldest, was not necessarily the happiest baby of all time, like didn't want to leave. He had this beaming smile, and he just didn't want to leave. Like, it was incredible. And to have, so I think libraries are great. So I think I respond to the same that way. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, the public domain is it's so interesting. I mean, and we talk about that. The challenge, I feel like, for a lot of practices that want to try to design in that domain is that those RFPs are normally won by the big dogs, right?
Well, here in Canada, the process is just
it's completely different.
It's just
right?
it's broken.
Yeah,
it's messed up. I mean, actually, Alex Bezikovic just wrote a column about it last week or 2 weeks ago.
Recently.
Yeah, and it's broken. I mean, the whole idea of the lowest bidder is just stupid. Like, it just gives shitty buildings that actually end up costing more money.
Yeah.
Because usually they cost more money on being built, and they're terrible quality, so they get maintenance costs is higher.
Yeah.
But and then like you said, it's the big dogs because they can afford to maybe lose a little bit here and there, but also there's no room for new blood. And that's kind of really sad. I mean, but you look, I think we should, but that's.
You want to talk about, we work in custom high res, right, at Walden, and like I would say we build some pretty exceptional homes. We don't do anything in the public and civic and institutional space. It's only, single family res. And I say that because times we can lose a project because we get undercut on pricing,
Mm-hmm.
but that happens in every single industry. That is an epidemic that should be rectified. But nonetheless, I don't think it ever will.
It's free market, baby.
I know. So are there locations that you have been ever interested in wanting to get to that you haven't had the opportunity to get to yet?
How much time do you have?
Everywhere we haven't been yet.
No, I know, but there could be, like, in the same way that you could have like a certain practice whose work you want to shoot, in the same way that you put together a business model of we want to be able to achieve a certain amount of dollar figure in our first year. There could be like a list. I don't know.
How much time do you have? Seriously, how much time do you have?
We really want to go to Japan.
Japan.
Really want to go to Japan and just spend some time in cities there.
Yeah, just on while we were sitting here waiting in our car.
I made them wait while lunch was being
No, we were early.
prepared.
We were early. But we're talking about doing like a cross America trip, like to go shoot, some Louis Kahn, Marcel Breuer, and Paul Rudolph. So they're the brutalist masters, and everything we've ever seen of theirs has been amazing.
What's it just like to rent like a camper or something with your kids and go?
I don't know. Or I would just do it like one at a time, like, just a trip here and there. There's plenty of these. I think we both, would love to see some Zumthor work in person, like, Wallsterms in Switzerland or the Zinke Museum in Austria. I mean, honestly,
just go.
There is so many places. I mean, we're talking about, a trip to Berlin, because Berlin is awesome.
Do either of you have family here in the city in Toronto?
Yeah.
No. Okay. So you don't have someone that could like take your kids on for like a week.
We've dumped them on my parents in Montreal.
Okay. You have. Okay. So you've done that.
That is our go-to. Yes. My parents have come and stayed at our house and looked after our kids too.
I only asked because like that, the concept of being able to do that would be amazing. Right.
Yeah. But we take them though. I think they're we always do use our trips kind of around sort of where they get a little bit of stuff designed towards them and a little bit of stuff designed towards us, and we make it a win-win for everyone. Like, every place that we were, like, I mean, actually, the Muralla Roja, they were absolutely ecstatic.
They loved it.
They
yeah.
loved it. It was magical. I mean, it was absolutely magical. Like the place we went to in Mexico this year was amazing. Even though they bitched and moaned about it because it wasn't, I guess, the pool that they had envisioned initially.
Oh, tough.
Yeah, but they had the place themselves.
Right.
And it was incredible. I mean, they loved it in the end, you know. Yeah, no, I think it's okay for it's okay for them to be exposed to all of this. I think it's kind of nice we have the privilege to be able to travel with our kids and, you know, show them different cultures, different places, you know, open their eyes to something different, you know. I mean, I know we're privileged, but, you know, that's just, we at least try to make good use of it, I guess. Yeah.
And so what do you like to do outside of this? You know, or is it this? It's this.
There's an outside of this.
Okay, so I guess we've already touched on that. Okay, good.
Yeah. Honestly, we're kind of boring that way. I'm boring that way.
No, you told me when you came in, this has been described to others who have been on here when they walk into this little office that I have some guitars around. So you talk about liking to make some noise every now and again on a guitar.
No, she's the musician in the house.
Oh, okay.
I do nothing.
A non-playing musician.
Yes.
And what, you like records or you
no,
sing?
no. Like I was
play piano.
I was a classical music kid, but I don't really play anymore. I mean,
she
play
played
the ukulele.
She played the cello. She sang on choirs. She's a beautiful voice. But actually, she does have a beautiful voice. I might have fallen in love with her voice before I fell in love with her. Actually, I'm not even joking. She's an amazing voice. She should maybe consider a second career.
Okay.
I'm boring. I took my hobby and turned it into a job.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I guess you've already touched on it.
It's a lesson and a curse.
When you go to travel, you try to find a place and you want to go snap it and take it and capture it.
Yeah, but I mean, you know.
Yeah, a lot of our travel is based around sort of buildings we want to see and things we want to experience. Things we want to experience.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to eat. I like to eat.
That is true.
Okay.
That's one of your hobbies.
All right. Well, then on that topic, let's talk about like some of the best meals you've had in some of these interesting places. What's one of your favorite roadside meals that you've had?
India. Worst trip of our life. Best meal ever. Actually, 2 meals, right? Yes,
2 meals.
Well, what was it?
So when we traveled to India, we went very far deep into the country. I don't even know if tourists are allowed there now. They weren't when we were there.
How did you get there? Was it a train or a bus?
Long story.
Mostly driving, which was a whole other thing.
Could feel a podcast.
But we were almost at the Myanmar border, so that's how far we were in India. And we just stopped at this little like roadside cafeteria with our host, the man who was escorting us around, and we had this like incredible vegetarian meal. It was so good.
For like 150 rupees.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
And then that portion of the trip was like, I wouldn't say it was roughing it, but it was a little bit.
It's pretty.
You're fringe. You're fringe.
Yeah.
It was fringier than fringe.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
And then, but at the end of sort of that leg of the trip, we stayed in an actual hotel, and we had this amazing tandoori chicken there.
It was the most incredible tandoori chicken.
It was really good.
Like when you say finger, like what you want to eat your fingers at, like it's that good. So good. I love food. I don't know if you know, but I love food.
Okay, so those are 2 from India. And what about a place like? Do you like fish? No, not so much. Okay, I was gonna say like, what about you're in Spain or Portugal? I feel like they, from what I've heard from people, is
they're kind of, I'm not gonna lie, they're not kind of my favorite places for food. Like I like just that it's fresh produce and stuff like that. Like it's good. I mean, Italy. We did like it was almost dirty. Like it's almost illegal what we did. we taught a workshop with another photographer.
Oh, I remember. This is a couple of years ago.
This year.
Last spring.
Was it last spring?
Yeah.
April. Yeah, I know it sounds like a long time ago.
It feels like a long
time.
time.
It does feel like
I remember because I remember seeing this.
Yeah. So
I remember seeing some of the pictures.
Yeah, we taught a workshop in Tuscany.
Yeah.
And with another photographer, Mike Kelly, who's based in LA, and we rented this incredible house.
That was 2014?
No, 2024.
Yes. I don't know. I just like somehow took us back 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
hello 2024 calling. No.
It's actually going to be 2025 in like 2 weeks.
Jesus, yeah.
Anyhow, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So we had this incredible house on its own hill, like overlooking the valley there. It's just unreal place.
Yeah.
Great people showed up at the workshop. And the most magical thing of all is we had a chef.
Yes.
And that, my friend, like, I mean, she was incredible.
She was amazing.
She was amazing. Like we had like 3 home cooked meals.
What? Yeah.
For the whole week.
Yeah.
It was just,
It made sense because we booked a villa that could accommodate all of the participants.
Yeah.
And there weren't really any options. You'd have to drive for, 20, 30 minutes to get even to like a cafe. So it made the most sense, but it also was a really good decision because she was incredible.
Was this a situation where she had brought in all the ingredients, or they were being brought in on a daily or a bi-daily basis?
Yeah, they brought in the food.
Yeah, they all lived in the area. Like she had, that was
what an
ridiculous
experience.
Yeah. Like everything's freshly made. Like the pasta was made. Everything is like
pastries.
Yeah. So I gained 8 pounds in a week.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that tells you just that there was no restraint. I mean, I own every single one of them.
But as you should. You're there. It's a 1 week experience. You got to just embrace it and let go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Bring an elastic waistband and just accept what's going to happen.
Yeah. No, it was incredible. Yeah.
I have to tell you, I appreciate the two of you coming to do this. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun. So I feel like we've got to do like part 2 and part 3, part 4, where we can hear more about all these other experiences you've talked about. How long do I have to go? Well,
hey, we're here.
I honestly, I appreciate it. Thanks for taking time. If you're unfamiliar with Doublespace's work of Younes and Amanda here, I mean, I am not by no means a critic of anything, but I like to offer my opinion. And in my opinion, I believe that they're among probably some of the best practiced photographers in the space. Their work is amazing. It really is. I'm not saying it because they're in front of us. I'm saying this because I wanted them to be here because I have such an affinity for what you do.
Thank you.
They're able to really take light and texture and space and make it feel like it is tangible through a photo. I don't know if I do a good enough job of describing that there, but that's what I generally feel when I see your shots. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate your craft. I appreciate your professionalism.
That was about as good a compliment as you could give us, to be honest.
So and your promptness. Thank you for showing up early. I appreciate that. sorry to make you wait in the car.
Nah. Thank you for having us. It was really awesome. It was great to actually finally meet in person. Yeah, and I'm sure our paths will cross again.
Definitely.